G'day everyone and welcome to episode 9 of the van build. Today I am tackling insulation, which in itself is a bit of a boring topic, but in saying that it is super important and it's a topic that everyone seems to have an opinion on. I am by no means an expert, but I'm going to take you through why I'm doing it the way I am. It's a little bit similar to how I did the last van with a little bit extra added. But before I get into the insulation, I wanted to first point out, did everyone spot the kangaroos in that first farm shot? They were a little bit sneaky. I've been trying to catch some on camera, but they're staying away a bit at the moment. And also, secondly, I wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone for your support. Last episode, I asked at the end of the episode if people were enjoying the format of these videos. And to be honest, I was almost a little bit overwhelmed by the response. You guys were so nice. I was a little bit nervous about going into filming on my own, but you guys give me the confidence to just keep going with it. So thank you for that. Okay, so I am really excited to get into insulation, and that is probably something that you wouldn't hear very often, but really it signifies a big step in the build because so much goes into the van walls before you start putting on the outer layers, and it means I'm getting really close to start seeing a lot of results. I've got the van shut up at the moment because I've got the heater running and I'm hotboxing in there, getting it nice and ready to be warm. Okay, and so in terms of my insulation, I'm doing it as a layered approach, which I don't know if it's a term, but I'm coining it. And I'm gonna quickly touch on each layer now, and then I'll expand on that when I get to them in the process. So layer 1 was purely an acoustic one. I installed this a few episodes ago. This is the sound dampener from Car Builders. Awesome stuff. Layer 2 is going to be my first thermal insulation layer, and it is also a product from Car Builders. I'll link it in the description. It's called the Van Liner. This stuff's awesome. I'm looking forward to getting that on. Layer 3 is PIR board or polyiso rigid foam boards. I used this in the last build. It really shores up the van walls and works for sound and heat. And actually, whilst I'm on the topic of the rigid foam boards, I have noticed that a lot of people, especially in Australia, have been using this foil board, which is EPS. This board is a bit cheaper, but it is for a reason. EPS is expanded polystyrene sheets, and it really is quite crumbly when you look at it. It's more permeable to water, and I really doubt that it's going to stand up to van vibration, whereas the PIR board doesn't crumble. It's got a higher R value and is impermeable to water. So if you haven't done it already, stay away from this shit. And then my final layer is going to be this closed cell foam that is going to have a little bit of an air gap between it and the boards, and it is going to make that air gap where the heat gets trapped. It also serves as a bit of a vapor barrier. Oh, and anywhere that the board can't fit, I'm going to be using these polyester bats, and if I run out of these, I've also got some earth wool.
Why can't we be friends? It's so much easier before we got our feelings hurt, and I can't pretend that it's easy. Why can't we be friends? I used to be so close to you. What's somebody supposed to do now? 'Cause I can't pretend that it's easy. Why can't we be friends?
So as you can see, some pretty pressing research has taken over priority just before I jump into the insulation itself. And unfortunately, when I search the best way to kidnap sheep in Australia, not much comes up. It's not something very much done in Australia. However, knowing that I have the best intentions in mind, I think the best way would be if I had some way to switch what country the internet thinks I'm searching from. And that is where it is very lucky that this video is sponsored by Surfshark. Surfshark is a VPN, and if you don't know what a VPN is it's a virtual private network. And what that essentially does is it makes your data more secure online. But another feature of it is you can choose where you're searching from. So I can click up here in the top right corner and change it. So instead of it saying I'm currently in Melbourne, I can change my location quickly to New Zealand and then redo the search. And now I get New Zealand results. And you know, if anyone knows how to kidnap sheep, it is those guys. So as well as being able to change your country location, Surfshark has a ton of other features, including the fact that you pay for it once and then you can download it across unlimited devices, which I don't think you can do with any other VPN. As well as that, when you do change your country location, it actually also gives you access to that country's Netflix. So if you're like me and you live in Australia, Australia's Netflix range is really shit. But I can put in the States or the UK and then I get access to all of your Netflix, which is really handy. Surfshark is actually offering 85% off at the moment, plus 3 extra months free, which is the best deal that you are going to get anywhere. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not enjoying it. But then it's super easy to download across all your devices. So make sure you click the link Oki. I'll put it in the top of the video description. If you ever have considered getting a VPN, full disclosure that if you click the link, I also get a little kickback, so you're helping me out as well. With that, I would never recommend them if I didn't fully believe in Surfshark. They've been a partner with this channel for over a year now, and it's something that I use every day. All right, I'm gonna quickly get back into this research, and then let's get back into installation. Okay, so it is time for layer 1, which is the van liner from Car Builders. So I'm peeling away at the back first, very similar to how I installed the sound deadener. And then the theory is to roll it on from one end to the other, so you're trying to avoid getting any air bubbles or anything. Tell you what, bloody beautiful. So the beauty of the van liner is that it stops radiant heat coming from the outside by up to 30 degrees, which is amazing in itself. But it also helps stop that moisture transfer. This forms a bit of a vapor barrier that helps stop that condensation forming, and then less water in your walls and everything, less rust. So, all right, now that is one panel done and a whole huge ass van to go. Let's do it. And I realize it's blasphemy in the van world, but I am going to be blocking out this window. And that is because that is where my shower cubicle is going. This window was already here when I bought the van. And to be honest, I almost changed my whole design because of this window and not wanting to block it out. But at the end of the day, it's not worth it for that. So I need to paint this window black so that from the outside, it just looks like dark tint that matches all the other ones. So this is what it currently looks like from the outside, and you can see the fan and the lights in there. So it's starting to look more like a spaceship than a van in here. I am almost done with all of the walls. The only big panel I've got left is the window panel that I painted. I am actually really impressed with how that paint has come up. It's already touch dry and it looks so smooth, completely blacked out from the outside. I am going to be putting a layer of the van liner over it too, because the backing's black, so it'll be fully blacked out. I figure I may as well do the roof first to give that paint just enough time to completely cure. Well, they're not my sheep, but they're a start. Now, whilst I'm taking a quick break before I tackle the ceilings, I wanted to address a few things. First, Suzanne correctly pointed out that I had forgotten to address the weekly question in the last week's video. Thank you, Suzanne, for pointing that out. So this week I'm going to make up for it and do two. The first one is from Patty, and she, I assume it's she, asked whether I am doing spray foam insulation like Eamon and Beck. As you can now see, I'm clearly not. There's a couple of reasons for that. One, I couldn't find a specialist that does it here in Australia, and if you don't have a specialist that does it, it can be really dangerous because you can get a lot of heat from the reaction that happens when you spray foam, and that can damage the van walls. The other reason is if you don't use the exact right spray foam, you can get really bad off-gassing. So I just didn't want to risk that. But in saying that, I do think it's a really good way to insulate. Obviously, it's a lot less labor intensive for the person doing it, and it's really good in cold weather climates. So something I may do in future. The second question was actually one that I got quite a few comments about, was whether the heater, the way I mounted it externally, was going to be okay, whether it was weatherproof. And the answer to that is it's not 100% weatherproof. It does say in the manual that you can mount it outside. I chose to do it that way because I wanted to save on space and because it was only a $200 heater. If I was doing it with the S-Bar, I would mount it inside. I wouldn't run that risk. There is a chance it might get a little bit wet, and I think I'm just going to have to see how it holds up to it. I do have a friend that's mounted it in the exact same spot, and it's been going great for over a year. I am thinking I might build a little aluminium housing just to protect it a little bit more, but guys, use me as a guinea pig, see how it goes for 6 months, 12 months. I'll keep you posted, and if it has any issues, I'll let you know. But otherwise, I'm really happy with the way it's running there. Okay, I am going to get at the ceiling. It is starting to get dark. I think it's going to be a late one for me tonight. Does anyone else find this strangely satisfying to see how well that blends in? It's like the joins were never there. So the roof is proving to be slow going, even by my standards. There's just a lot of weird shapes up there because of the fans and things. But I have to say it is a glorious temperature in the van at the moment with that heater running, and I've got the van door open and it's still so nice in here. I'm going to stop for a quick break for dinner, partly because I'm hungry, but mainly because my audiobook ran out. I'm listening to the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I just finished book 3. I'm sure a lot of you have read it. It's super popular old series, but I have to say I never really liked Stephen King, and I have decided to push through with this series, and the writing's growing on me. After dinner, I am going to push and get the rest of this van liner done tonight, even if I'm up till midnight. It's like that window was never there. Good morning. Well, it didn't take me till midnight, but it was bloody close. I finished up doing the inside of the van at about 11, just after 11 p.m. last night. Very happy to have that section done. I have to say that stuff's really good to work with in terms of it goes on really well. It's just a matter of, cutting it to all those small spaces. And as you can probably see, I also did all under these sides, and that was super fiddly, and getting your hands in there and stuff was a bit tricky. Okay, so now I'm up to the PIR board layer of the insulation. If there was one layer of this insulation that's kind of putting me in the realms of going a little bit overboard, it's this one, and that's only because I've already got the van liner, and the van liner will be doing such a good job for radiant heat as well. But I want to add this because, as I said, it really shores up the walls and makes it really firm, and it also, I think, helps with sound as well as heat. And look how, just with the shape of these ribs, how they come out a bit, that is really holding it in place. So as long as I cut it to the right size, I think I'm only going to just squirt a little bit of spray foam in the gaps, and then it won't, it already is so solid that won't go anywhere. Some of you are probably wondering about how I'm going to do my wiring because I haven't already laid it in. I'm planning on using kind of channels like this to run my 12-volt wiring, because that actually goes straight through the ribs there. Rather than bury my wiring under insulation, this time I want to make it a bit more accessible, because I know with the last van it can be really hard if you need to access something or find wires when they're so deep in there. So this way it's going to be just under the cladding. what are the chances I can work like a maniac and smash this all out in the next few hours? So I have to say, so far these are going on really well, really easy, and I think the key is just cutting them so they fit in there nice and solidly on their own and they don't need much sticking. One tip with using the expanding foam, which I've learned from past mistakes, is if you get the inevitable drops on your floor like this, the last thing you want to do is try and wipe it up straight away. It just smudges and you'll never get off your floor. What you do is you let it dry. You can just pick them straight up once they're dried and put them in the bin. Too easy. The expanding foam is doing a really good job, but I have also started to use a bit of Sikaflex just on the back, just for extra adhesion to the back to make sure it doesn't move. Seems to be doing a good job. One of the hardest parts about building the van isn't the labor of each job. If anything, I quite enjoy once I get into the labor of each job because it means you're just focused on that. For me, the hardest part is knowing that each job you do potentially affects the next job, and the way you've got to think ahead. For example, with the electrical, you've got to think of where all that's going to go, and you don't want to block off access. And same with once your walls are up, and where my shower vent's going to be, and kind of you've got all those things in the back of your mind. So yeah, it's not a small task if you're thinking about taking it on. Be prepared. I am getting pretty close to done, to be honest. So let me take you through what I have done, and there's certain areas that I've missed, and I'll let you know what's going on up here. So first of all, the two panels here and here, which are going to be either end of my bed when it's set up, I am not going to put PIR board because I'm going to have this recessed in so I get a little bit of extra headroom. I've kept a gap around the window frame because I need to do the framing for that to come out to meet the cladding. If we move down to what was the window, this I am not putting PIR board on yet because some of my shower cubicle is actually going to recess into right up against this, and then I'll put board around it. So I've got to wait till I put the shower in and mark that out. As for the ceiling, I knew with the ceiling being such a weird shape, like you can see from the side on here, these dips come so low that there was no chance of getting boards up there and sticking them up there. And so my way to combat the ceiling being such a weird shape, not being able to put boards up there, when I do the cladding for the ceiling, I'm going to put some of those polyester bats up there, and then I'll still have that vapor barrier, so there'll be that air gap to trap the heat in. It is turning out to be an absolute cracker of an afternoon on the farm. I am really happy with the amount of insulation I got done in the last 2 days. I've definitely done the bulk of the work. The only things remaining is the soft polyester bats to put in the lower cavities, which I'll wait till I get the electrical in. And then also the final outer layer, the vapor barrier, which is also going to have to wait till I get that electrical run. As some of you have probably noticed, I've been pushing back against doing the electrical. I think that's all in my own head. I'm just a little bit worried about missing something or doing something wrong. So I can't put it off any longer because I want to get it done so I can start really putting the walls on, putting the ceiling on. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I really appreciate it. I am now going to pack up, let that cure, and head for a surf. I hope you guys are well wherever you are, and I will see you next week. Bye.